comes to checks, it's not going to be sitting in an office building, right? I mean, and I think what we're continuing to see gives us just further confidence that this AI revolution from semis to software is just beginning.
All right, so what is it you're continuing to see? And tell our viewers, you're in Tokyo. You know, they're well acquainted with your channel checks, but I'd be curious to know what that actually means, A, what you actually do, and then what you're seeing that's giving you the confidence in this raised forecast in terms of how many iPhone 16 shipments there will be.
Yeah, and that's really across Asia in terms of suppliers, how we've always been able to really, I think, get a beat in terms of our view of the supply chain for iPhone. And this started off units coming out, we're calling it 80 to 84 million for iPhone 16. And now we're at, we believe, about 90 million and potentially higher. And that's important because that's essentially what Apple is telling suppliers in terms of what the demand outlook looks like on iPhone 16. And we continue to believe this is the start of an AI-driven super cycle for Apple.
China remains important. You're in the region. You're obviously not in that country right now, but does that extend to your so-called channel checks, Dan? Do you get a sense for demand there, given how important that would be overall for the iPhone 16?
Yeah, and that's a big part of what we're doing, and we'll be back in a few weeks in Asia. I think China is going to be key in terms of from a growth perspective. I mean, we believe there's 100 million iPhones in a window of an upgrade opportunity. And those are going to be 80, 85% Pro and Pro Max. And what's important there is that's just going to further drive ASPs. In our opinion, we could now be looking at over 240 million units for Apple going 2025. And if that happens, despite all the white knuckles we've seen over the last week or two, I think we're looking at a $4 trillion market cap in a year.
For 3 years now, Apple stock is in a nice upward trend on the monthly chart. The upper band of this trend was established in the middle of 2020, right after the pandemic hit the world. The upper band was confirmed in January of 2022, and in January of 2023, the first lower band touch point developed. Then it looked like Apple was forming a wedge that could have indicated a reversal, but despite the fundamental weakness during the last year, the stock broke above the upper wedge line, and it looks like the stock is going to touch the upper end of the trend line at $270. Maybe it is no coincidence that $270 would also mean that Apple's market cap would be roughly $4 trillion.